Hello everyone. Today we have a special episode with Bullet Exchange. We have been mentioning about them to you. I'm not sure if you recall them. We wanted to host them for a while, and finally we onboarded Animol, co-founder of Bullet. With us today. We have a great news feed right now. We want to ask many questions to him as a co-founder, and yeah, we are really excited about this recording since we want to host Bullet like a month ago, like July, but we couldn't find a good timeline for us both on both sides. Since then, a lot of things happened on the perpetual deck side, and I believe Bullet side as well. So welcome, Animal. Am I correct? Is saying correct, by the way? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here, and yeah, excited to talk. A lot has been going on in the Perp DEX space over the last couple months.
Yes. Today, Bedri is co-hosting with me. Welcome, Bedri. How are you?
I'm good. You?
I'm good too. Yeah, we are the duo hosting dejön. dejön, if you don't know, dejön is a DeFi and Bitcoin focused streaming and podcast platform. We have been doing this for 2 year right now, it seems, and we are very happy to host you today, Animal. So I will just get into the points because like we have 1 hour mostly, I believe. So I want to start with Bullet. Could you just give us a minute talk about like what is Bullet like?
Yeah, sure. So Bullet is a purpose-built network, a purpose-built layer for trading, and everything from the ground up has been designed to optimize trading, specifically perps trading. From our view, basically a lot of DeFi and a lot of blockchain, like the main use case of it is trading. So it makes sense to build a chain that is optimized specifically for that trading use case. So the way we've built that, as you can see here, is it's a network extension that sits on top of Solana. And that network has a lot of the core primitives for trading, like derivatives, spot, borrow, lend, all of these built natively into the layer itself. And then on top of that, of course, there's the ability to build exchanges, build applications, build all sorts of trading based use cases.
That's great. That's interesting. Like the network extension, if you are not familiar, I'm also not familiar too much. It's kind of roll up of Solana, and we will get into that like what are the differences. But first, yeah, I want to actually directly go there. What is network extension actually like? This is a bit deep topic. I have bunch of question about network extensions since we are very familiar with roll-up designs. I want to deep dive this and I want to see what are the differences, main blockers, like main advantages one to another.
Yeah, sure. So a network extension is a type of rollup. And I guess the way that this is different to a lot of L2s is that this rollup is very specific. It's built for that use case of trading. It's not built to scale normal transactions or normal DeFi use cases on the Solana blockchain itself. It's built as a dedicated layer for trading, for trade execution, and all that stuff then ultimately still settles back on Solana. Um, so yeah, I'd say that the main difference between this and other L2s is one, it's very specific. The use case is very specific. And it's almost like a separate lane on top of the Solana blockchain that's purpose built for high frequency trading. That's the way that we envision it.
So, well, like if I want to like ask this question, what makes a chain to a network extension rather than side chain or roll up? What will be the differentiator on that? Like, is there like key points about that? If it's posting that data to Solana, if it's settling on Solana, It's something like that. What is the like main differentiator? I know like you are doing the execution, you are doing the DA, you are sending, you are using DA for Celestia for DA,
Mm.
settling on Solana, but this architecture sounds like roll up. I'm trying to understand what makes you network extension.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess a lot of this just boils down to definitions, but I do think it is quite similar to a side chain at the end of the day, and it is a roll up and it is built on top of like roll up based infrastructure. But I guess the vision of network extension is that this is basically extending the capabilities of Solana, like leveraging a lot of Solana's strengths, and just building upon those strengths for that specific use case of trading.
Yeah,
Great.
perfect.
Do you want to
So
ask a question? Okay.
yeah, of course, we can move to the next question because lots of people curious about what's happened in a dispute or rollback, and also how is the trust or fraud-proof mechanism triggered and resolved in this work area.
Yeah. So for us, the key piece here is the zero knowledge aspect. So the way the bullet chain works is that it has a zero knowledge virtual machine built into it. That means that every single transaction that happens on the bullet chain, um, it has a proof, a fraud proof, and that can be then passed through um, zero knowledge solutions um, such as Risk Zero, such as our friends at Succinct, it can be passed through their infrastructure. And basically, the transaction, the state that results from the transaction, can be trustlessly verified and proved. Um, and if there is an issue, then there's like the whole pathway of being able to dispute that fraud proof. And then once that fraud proof is disputed and it's proven that something did go wrong in the execution, then it can be rolled back to that point in time, and basically get back to the true state of the blockchain.
Got it. And you mentioned ZK withdrawals coming in feature upgrade. Not not now, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's in the works. So it's a lot of it's being built out, and then it will be rolled out alongside mainnet.
And I wonder if you are going to use risk zero like bundles for that, since I see
Uh,
them as partners here.
yeah. So the way that the blockchain works is it's quite modular. So we can support both succinct and risk zero.
Oh, okay, got it.
So
Um,
we
yeah.
can move next question because lots of people curious about uh, how it works gas structure and also will fee structure be volatile? How did you manage the old projects?
Yeah. So initially at launch, the chain will be gasless, or the gas will be abstracted. But then once the bullet token itself launches, that's when gas will be introduced in the native bullet token. Our goal is to abstract this away from the user as much as possible. So we don't want users to deal with gas costs too much. And the big role there is that exchanges fundamentally, they have transaction fees, right? And it's quite similar to just extending like the exchange fees or the transaction fees into the gas model. And as much as possible, keeping the gas costs low and only sort of using gas as a tool when the chain is extremely congested or under a lot of stress. But in most cases, the gas will be abstracted away from the users, and it'll feel very much like a gasless experience for users.
So it's kind of. Are you using like paymasters for that?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Okay, got it.
That's right. So to
Yeah.
leverage like paymasters.
Okay. Actually, I see that. Yeah. Cool. That's cool. Um. So, you were like planning to use Solana for data availability, but recently I saw that you are like kind of flirting with a lot with Celestia, and I saw you had been having these competitions, mount competition with them. So what's changed? What was the like main reason on that?
The biggest thing is just realizing that an exchange, there's a lot of data that's posted in an exchange, like through the transactions and through the state. Um, a lot of data gets used and taken up. And on Solana, like using block space is quite an expensive process and it's not super scalable. Whereas Celestia is it's a chain that's purpose built for data availability and for data, right? So it makes sense for us to use that as the most scalable piece of infrastructure. And that's one of the beautiful things about Bullet. Like we've gone down the modular path. So for any given part of our exchange, we can always switch out and use the most scalable or the leading solution. So at the end of the day, the experience for the users is one, it's like the fastest, most scalable experience. But two, it's also like the cheapest experience because all these costs like eventually do add up. So by using something that is purpose built, more scalable and cheaper like Celestia, we can then create that experience for users, which is just much better than if the data availability was on Solana.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the explanation. It makes sense, definitely, like using Celestia or some kind of data availability layer rather than Solana. Yeah. Next topic is like we checked out your background. I mean, like Bullet's background. It's not hidden. It's all over the place already. Like you're pretty obviously saying that. And we know that like you started as Zeta Exchange. I might even like use Zeta, by the way. I'm not sure, but I recall your logo. Probably I use it.
I also added some LP in the Meteor launch. Yeah, I use lots of time.
Oh yeah, that was it, right? We were having this LP stuff on Meteora, and yeah,
Yeah,
probably I
parcel
also did. Yeah.
is the term, yeah.
So we wanted to know like how it's evolved in time. How was
Yeah,
your experience in Solana? It's kind of first perp DEX in Solana, right? Zeta.
yeah. So I can go back. So a lot of the contributors at Bullet also built out Zeta, and that was something that I worked on as well from the beginning days. And when we first built the Zeta markets, it was built um, as the first options and futures exchange in all of DeFi. It'd never been done before on a club at least. So we were the first options and futures club in DeFi, and that was a very challenging experience. But ultimately, we learned that the liquidity is very hard to scale on chain. Options, there's a lot of markets. It's much more fragmented than perpetuals, and there's a lot more nuance in how you provide liquidity, and it's a lot harder to provide liquidity for. And the issue that we faced there was basically market makers couldn't provide high quality liquidity, whether it be because of like the slow block times on Solana, dealing with Solana network nuances or network issues. Um, so from there, we learned that we needed to really aggregate liquidity and provide a product that had a more liquid market essentially. And then we evolved into offering perps and launching perps, and we had some success there. We processed over $15 billion in volume. Had quite a few users, like 20,000 monthly active users for a decent period of time. But ultimately, the same issues still stood, where having a club purely built on the Solana L1, it just wasn't scalable. And for market makers, it's very hard to provide liquidity. Given the block times and given the amount of MEV activity on the Solana blockchain, it basically meant that market makers would just have, you know, hundreds of quotes out there at any given time. And that's a lot of sort of transaction fees that you have to like pay to cancel, replace these quotes and to offer liquidity. So that's very expensive as a process. But then additionally, it's very easy for just like a taker or some sort of MEV arbitrager to come in and just pick off your liquidity when you do go wrong. So it's very hard for market makers to scale up and provide more robust liquidity as well. So that was a big lesson in terms of building a club on the Solana L1. And if you look at what's happened to the Solana L1, like that's definitely showed. If you remember when Solana first launched, it was all about offering CLOBs on the L1 natively. There was Serum, there was Mango Markets, there was us, there was Bonfida. There was a whole range of CLOB-based DEXs. And now if you look at Solana, there are almost none left. All the DEXs on Solana are AMM based. So I guess it was proven that Solana wasn't scalable enough, it wasn't fast enough to really scale CLOB-based liquidity. So those were like a lot of the lessons that we learned building Zeta on top of Solana as a decentralized application. And over the last sort of 2 years, it's been very clear that the leading players in the DEX space, firstly, are order book based. Secondly, they're all built on their own purpose-built like layers that are optimized for trading, whether that be the hyperliquid L1, whether it be rollups, whether it be app chains, whatever it is, like that is the most scalable solution, and that is what we see as the dominant solution. And it's from those learnings that Bullet emerged, where we realized that to build liquid, scalable markets that can really stand up to centralized exchanges. One, the performance needs to be as good as centralized exchanges. Like having the excuse of being a DEX and using that excuse to offer worse performance or a subpar experience is no longer good enough. So that led to Bullet and the realization that we really need to build this custom built layer for trading. And yeah, the metrics also sort of hold up against centralized exchange players as well. Our latency is now like below 2 milliseconds, which is competitive with the likes of Binance. The TPS has been scaled to thousands of TPS as well. So that's where Bullet emerged from, and I guess our journey from Zeta to Bullet and building our own network.
Makes sense. Actually, like when I hear this, it's undoubtedly like perp DEXs are showing that application specific chains have had huge opportunity right now, and you are building one rather than Ethereum or like your own chain. You are using Solana as the base there, it seems. Thank you so much for that. While we talk about Zeta Markets, I want to ask also a question about Zax. You don't need to like answer that if you don't have the overall picture right now. But since this is coming with you guys, like since you have built another perp DEX before called Zax, people are like want to know more about like what how it's going to affect your platform.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is bringing the community along, just as like how we brought a lot of our learnings from those days along as well, and using that as a way to, strengthen Bullet and enhance Bullet, right? So there will be a migration from Zex tokens to Bullet tokens, and then eventually Zex will be wound down as a token, and Bullet will be the main token that takes things forward. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. So we can move the latency side because some people curious about how it's gonna work with latency at the bullet side. So I want to ask this question because your aim for sub 2 ms execution, how you can achieve that, and also we write on the screen, Binance is not that fast. How it can be possible?
Yeah. So the way that this works is firstly understanding that because we built on our own layer, the core layer itself is built in pure Rust. And the core primitives like spot trading, perpetuals trading, and the borrowland, they're built in pure Rust as well, and they're baked into the layer. So that is like one piece of understanding that we need, and Rust is an extremely performant language. The second piece is that the sequencer, we leverage the sovereign rollup stack, the SDK, to build the Bullet network. And the sequencer there it doesn't process transactions in batches. So on Solana or on Hyperliquid or like Arbitrum, transactions are processed in batches and in blocks. The way that Bullet works is that each transaction is processed in real time. So it's like first in, first out, very similar to how a centralized exchange is built. And it has basically no performance limitations on the layer itself. The performance limitations come when we're posting the DA, when we're posting the data to the DA and settling the transactions on the chain. And to do that, that is when we bring in the concept of blocks or chunks, where the proofs and the data is batched and then posted to the DA or settled onto Solana. So that's a summary of like how we achieve the 1.2 millisecond like latency. But the main points there are is everything's in pure Rust and everything happens in real time, not in blocks on the rollup itself.
Perfect. So, Taro, do you have anything about latency, or we can move the ecosystem plan?
Yeah.
So, we have a background. I can continue. I want to ask general question at this topic because every project has a some plan for the ecosystem side. So, what is the plan for the bullet ecosystem, and people was gonna waiting for the ecosystem side actually for bullet?
Yeah. So firstly, the priority is like the core exchange primitives and bootstrapping those. So getting the liquidity excellent on the perp side, on the borrowland side, and on the spot trading side. But as I mentioned, this is sort of all built natively into the chain as primitives. And on top of this, we have a few additional elements. Like one is things like vaults. That's just like the very first use case where people can build and deploy strategies that integrate into these core primitives. But more broadly, what we want to do is have a SVM layer, which is currently being worked on, a Solana virtual machine layer, where you can build smart contracts on top of these core primitives and build all sorts of trading-based applications that then leverage these core primitives as their engine. So this way, we keep the liquidity concentrated within the core primitives itself, but then enable people to come and like build basically a limitless array of like products or applications on top of those core primitives.
So, peki, is there any plan for the money market or other DApps? Is there any current news, or is there any new partners for the future?
So the money market will be built there natively as a core primitive. So like the borrow lend piece will be the money market piece that will actually exist there from day one. It's already deployed on testnet along with the other primitives.
Perfect. So,
Yeah, and then the key thing there with the borrow lend on the money market is that it enables multi-collateral as well. So a lot of like perp dexes only use like USDC collateral, whereas with the money market and the borrow lend, we can actually enable people to deposit, Sol, Bitcoin, ETH, things like liquid staked Solana as well into the platform, and then use that as collateral in their margin account as well.
I see. Perfect. So we can move to
I, yeah, I want to ask that, like, we have seen that NFT meta after hyper NFTs, and like they all have some kind of vault, market making vault, or insurance fund vault, and it was highly debated last weekend actually, like HLP or like the LLP, etc. And I want to ask if you have this kind of plans for future, like having an NFT for your community, having a vault for liquidity provision, something like that.
Yeah, so I can start with the votes. The votes is something that is being worked on currently. So that will be deployed on mainnet, and the votes, it's a flexible infrastructure, so it can enable things like market making and liquidity. It can also enable things like basis trades or hedge JLP strategies. Basically, can enable any strategy that can be built on top of like perps or spot or the borrow lend itself. So the votes are definitely a big plan going into mainnet launch, and having a liquidity vault is also a key part, as we've seen from HLP and LLP. A lot of these are used to bootstrap liquidity and bootstrap these exchanges in the early days, and it'll be no different for us. Yeah, it's quite similar. It's quite a common concept in DeFi, I guess. Even like the AMMs are basically vaults as well, right? This is just like a smarter, more yeah, a more clever vault essentially,
Is
built on
there
top
an
of like perps.
ETA for that? When is
Uh,
it expected for vaults to become like one of the products?
so the core infrastructure for vaults is built, and then I guess the ETA would just mainly be dependent on the liquidity strategy, but we'll likely have a liquidity vault very close to the time of launch, if not at
Perfect.
launch. Yeah.
Perfect. Tarvo, do you have any additional thing, or we can move the other part? So, let me check the
The
question.
Yeah.
other thing that you asked was about the NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
So just looping back there, for us, one of the big things that will be a part of our protocol going forward will also be having trading competitions that are really optimized for the best traders in the platform, like not just for people who come in and just trade a lot of volume, but the traders who are highly skilled traders. So we will have this like element of gamification in the platform, which will have like leagues and traders being able to compete for different leagues and for different badges, as well as a way to sort of prove themselves as traders and have fun while doing it as well.
That's it. Thank you so much. Yeah, we can move with the interrupt question. Like, I wanted to ask specifically about this. Since you built on top of Solana, what do you think about like having a cross-chain bridge with other ecosystems? Because we know that like many people are using still EVM environments like Ethereum, Arbitrum, rollups, etc. And most of those perpetual exchanges have some kind of cross-chain bridges enabled with any environment. Like they you can deploy your assets directly from Arbitrum to Lighter, even it is another ZK rollup on top of Ethereum mainnet, right? So what is your plan about that?
Yeah. So the plan there initially will launch with the trust minimized bridge sitting on Solana, but very shortly after we also have the capability to not just have SVM but also EVM compatibility and support as well. So users will be able to bridge from whether it be Ethereum or Arbitrum or Solana itself into the platform and deposit the capital and start trading, and it should feel very native to them. It shouldn't really feel like they're bridging. Everything should be very quick in the matter of like seconds to get money in and out. Um, so yeah, definitely plan to integrate EVM bridges as well and make Bullet something that anyone can use.
So anyone can deploy their assets directly into Bullet and utilize it without needing Solana. What about Solana native wallets like Phantom? Can we able to use? Actually, you have gas abstraction, so I'm not sure about this question if it's applicable to you. But do we need to use like a Phantom wallet, like SVM wallets, or any wallet can be supported?
So initially, with our launch, it'll be supporting Solana wallets. So you need gas when you deposit in from the Solana chain for that transaction itself. But once you're deposited into Bullet, we actually use a piece of wallet infrastructure called Privy, which does a lot of the abstraction and setup around wallets for users. So it means that basically you can sign up to Bullet with your Solana wallet, or in the future with your MetaMask wallet. And then once you're on Bullet, we'll abstract the whole wallet experience for you, and it'll just very much feel like you're using a native like application on Web2, where once you've like logged in and signed, everything from there is very smooth and straightforward. as if you're using like a centralized exchange, for example. And that's just one of the things that we think is important. Like when it comes to perps trading, high frequency trading, we don't want users to have to sign every single transaction. We want it to be very sort of frictionless and make it very easy for people to trade. Um, and the beautiful thing about Privy is also it lets people have like backup or recovery methods. So it means that you can use your Google account or your email account or whatever as a backup method, which also makes it very easy for you to like log in from mobile where you might not have your native Solana wallet.
Awesome. I think we can go with another topic, which is points, which might be more interested by our listeners.
Yeah,
Yeah, I actually checked, by the way. You have no points program right now. Like, yeah, we wanted to discuss a bit about like what are your future plans about go to market. Maybe Bedri can take it over from here.
of course, I can take it because, as Taro said, lots of listeners curious about this because currently also we farming some points from the some dexes, and also we want to ask you how will you attract liquidity and volume to early on? How did you measure it actually, people and participants?
Yeah. So at the moment, there isn't a points program because it's on testnet. So the purpose of testnet, we ran a few competitions and had cash prizes to get that stress testing um, from various users. And once mainnet is live, there will be a points program. So very similar to what you've seen on Hyperliquid or Lida or Paradex or some of these other platforms. So that would be one part of it. And the other part of it, as I mentioned, is we'll also have competitions um, that are built for traders who are trying to sort of prove themselves, make P&L, and drive that real usage, just to make sure that we aren't just attracting farmers, but also attracting like the real traders who will use this as their primary exchange and give us that valuable feedback that we need to to grow and optimize the exchange and become one of the leading dexes in the space.
Mhm.
So yeah, there'll be two pieces to that go to market. There'll be points and there'll be competitions. And there's also a third aspect, which is a very strong affiliate referral program. So the main thing there is realizing that a lot of dexes have had quite simple um, affiliate programs or referral programs. So we think we can come out with one of the strongest referral programs in the space and use that as another lever for growth and go to market as well, and make sure that we give value back to these people who are bringing in real users.
Perfect. So I want to ask the other question for the new users. What do you want to say to new users? How they can build their strategy for the airdrop or for the using bullet sites? What do you want to say for the new users from the points or from the airdrop sites?
For new users, I think the best thing to do is to get involved early. So many affiliates have wait lists already where you can sign up and get on the wait list for Bullet. And those will be the first users that get to try the exchange. So the advice that I can give is be early, offer feedback, and engage with the platform organically, move your trading here. Um, and yeah, that's the best way to set yourself up to be a big part of Bullet and Bullet's future.
Perfect. So we can move the others topic. Taro, do you want to continue or?
Yeah, yeah. I think you are pretty familiar with Club Wars. I think I have seen you in several other podcasts, which is like hosted by some other partners. I don't recall them right now, but during that time I was also pretty into Club Wars. And right now we want to understand the current situation of perpetual dexes. When people say Club Wars, it's mostly about perpetual dexes, but it's actually a central limit order book, which means like also it should cover spot exchanges. I'm not sure if you have plans for spot exchange, by the way, but I saw in your docs, I mean, but I haven't seen any like solid step for it yet. But I want to ask like how you are going to differentiate in between these club wars with other competitors. Like in Solana, I think there is only the Rift right now, but if you expand this space to the other ecosystems like EVM side, there are plenty of applications trying to capture same market.
Mhm. Yeah. So on Solana, I don't think there are any major clubs live at the moment. Drift uses like a blended model where they have like a RFQ and then they have an AMM, and they have an auction mechanism as well. So it's not an order book. So when you look at the order book landscape, like the main players are the the likes of LiDAR, of Hyperliquid, of Paradex, Extended, etc. So those are the main players in this whole club war space. And then we've seen Aster and stuff pop off in the last month as well. So those are the main players in the club wars. And when we talk about club wars, I think the first thing to do there is to understand um, the the importance of central limit order books. And the main thing there is order books are sort of the tried and tested way of having the best, deepest liquidity, provided that the infrastructure holds up and that the infrastructure is strong. Order books are the best way to aggregate and provide liquidity because it lets an infinite array of market makers who already do this on centralized exchanges or other dexes. It lets them plug in quite easily and do the same on that exchange. So this way you have a very robust base of liquidity providers. And then that leads to the best pricing and the best user experience for users as well. So that's like the importance of clubs as a way to aggregate liquidity. Um, when you go further, the club wars and the space at the moment really it's it's a fight for liquidity first. So which platforms can be the most liquid, which a lot of that is dependent partly on performance and infrastructure reliability, good risk engines, as we've learned over the past few days. Um, those are like the basics, but then on top of that is that whole flywheel of getting users, getting organic trading, so that these market makers can make money and can scale up confidently. And then the flywheel for liquidity really it keeps rotating and it keeps growing, where more users leads to more liquidity, which leads to more users, more liquidity, and so on. So I think when we talk about the club wars, that is really the essence of the club wars. And then at the moment we have a lot of players. I think the main things to watch are one, liquidity. So despite what the volume numbers say, which platforms are the most liquid? That is one key thing. And then the other thing is usage. Which platforms have organic usage and revenues at the end of the day? Which of these are proper exchanges that are operating and growing? So those are the most important things to look at when we look at the club wars.
So much. Yeah. We cannot compare Bullet at the moment with the other markets since it's not on the mainnet. Most of these markets we have referred during our conversations are either mainnet or like a pre-mainnet campaign, like a I don't know, like still on the mainnet, but it's like a private beta or something like that. So it's not fair to compare with the Bullet right now. But you have showed some good signals. That's also coming to our roadmap questions, but I want to ask first, like we have seen enormous event recently on Friday. What do you think about this event actually? That's one thing. Another thing is like how you are handling auto leverage or congestions and lots of other questions about perp dexes came out last Friday.
Mhm. Yeah. So I'll dig into this a little bit because I've looked at it in some detail. So last Friday, we saw the biggest liquidation event in crypto history. So I believe the published numbers are around $20 billion liquidated, which for reference is around 10 times bigger than the liquidation event that happened when FTX went down. So when we break this down, I think it started with the announcements around Trump and tariffs, which sort of sent the market into a bit of panic. But looking at it deeper, a lot of this also stemmed from Binance. So on Binance, there was some poor exchange design, to be frank, where some of their assets they didn't use. So in their multi-collateral engine, for some of the assets, they didn't use like a Oracle for valuing those assets. They used the spot market on Binance itself. So we saw this with like USDE and like wrapped Bitcoin and one of the wrapped Solana versions on Binance. And we saw those assets experience really big dumps. So someone came in and sold a lot of those assets and dumped the market on spot. And then what happened is that for the people using unified margin or unified trading accounts, and they had those assets, it meant that their asset value or the value of their margin plummeted. And then, of course, when the value of your margin plummets, that then leads to liquidation. So this started a liquidation cascade on Binance. And when this happens, a liquidation cascade happens, liquidity gets pulled. So we then saw other spot markets, especially the altcoin markets. We saw huge drawdowns in altcoins where a lot of the coins basically went to zero. So again, that then has two effects. The one, if you are using those as collateral, the value for collateral goes down, liquidating you. But then secondly, because these assets plummeted, if you are trading perps on those assets, again, that adds more stress to the liquidation engine as well. And in this scenario, market makers stop quoting because there's too much volatility. And then additionally, the exchanges also struggle with the transaction load. So a lot of market makers can't even get their quotes updated or get their quotes through. So I think that's like the backdrop of the liquidation event. And obviously Binance being the biggest venue, all of this spills out to the other exchanges. And the same liquidation cascades happen on the other exchanges as well. And they suffer from the same, issues of APIs being overloaded, not being able to get orders through, etc. And then that led to a market-wide liquidation event. So that's like the breakdown of this whole like liquidation event. And then the key thing to draw out here is that when this happens, there's no liquidity left in the market, so that the risk needs to be managed. And the way that the risk is managed is basically auto deleveraging. And basically every exchange who had auto deleveraging used it as a way to manage and offload the risk and prevent wider bankruptcy and wider risk blowing out throughout the whole ecosystem. But yeah, obviously auto deleveraging it's a tricky topic because when do you auto deleverage people? How do you make that decision? The reality is like whenever auto deleveraging happens, like not everyone's going to be happy. But I think it was a necessary thing to do to keep the ecosystem safe and to keep the markets alive. Otherwise, these platforms probably wouldn't exist.
Thank you so much for the explanation. Actually, I also have seen some recent information about Binance price. Binance prices was triggered because of their internal oracles. Like somebody tried to manipulate the Ethereum price, and it kickstart cascade of liquidations. I was suspicious, but since you are also referring that same event, it's quite interesting. This whole thing is like just some kind of manipulation happened on Binance, and it just cascaded lots of liquidations on every other exchange. This is like a supply chain attack for crypto per DEX environment. It's really so bad. Like I cannot even imagine like a DEX I have been liquidated in a DEX because of manipulated market price on Binance, which is not an asset I was holding even, like I was trading even, because it was just
Yeah.
USD, right? I was longing, I don't know, maybe EtherFi or something, but still, these liquidations are like a chain reaction. It happened. I wasn't expecting that. It's really absurd to happen.
Yeah. I mean, the market definitely overreacted, right? Like, I think the tariff news alone wasn't big enough to cause this. But when you add the tariff news and then you add this whole exploit or system failure, and then the liquidation cascade that happened and rippled throughout the rest of the ecosystem, it made very difficult circumstances. Because, yeah, it was prices going down. It was flawed exchange design being manipulated. And then it was also like every platform suffering from outages or congestion. It's basically the same thing. Um, so all these things happen at once, and there's like a liquidity vacuum. So then things only get worse and prices only destabilize more. And then widespread liquidations happen throughout the market, which is, it's very devastating, right? Because from what I understand, even people not using high leverage
Yeah.
got liquidated if they were using perps.
Yes, it was insane because some of the tokens dropped like 90%, 95% even. Like this came to another topic, the regulations. What do you think about like current state of regulations in perp DEXs? Because these like when we get into perp DEXs, actually overall in crypto market, everything sounds scammy to outsiders. And have this kind of events happens on crypto, it's really hard to like convince people this is not a scam. What do you think about like future regulation plans, like how it's going to affect, or is this perp dex narrative is just an regulatory arbitrage? What do you think?
I don't think so. I definitely don't believe that. Like, I think perp dexes are the future, and I believe more and more trading will shift to dexes. Like, whether you look at FTX or whether you look at this event that happened on Binance, right? It's not very transparent. Like, what happened? Like, how was this triggered? Who triggered it? Why did they trigger it? All these questions are completely unknown because they're behind centralized exchanges. So I think DEXs are the answer where a lot of this stuff happens in the transparent, like in the transparent environment, and all of like the liquidity and the pricing starts shifting towards happening on DEXs. The price discovery happens there, the bulk of the liquidity is there, the trading happens there, and I believe that will make a safer ecosystem um, for like long-term scalable trading, because we keep seeing centralized exchanges blow up. So I don't think it's about regulatory arbitrage. I think this is the future. There's also a lot of questions around was this like a coordinated attack on Hyperliquid as well? Because a lot of the liquidation like happened on Hyperliquid. Like if you look at the $20 billion as liquidated, I think 10 of it
30.
happened on Hyperliquid.
uh,
So
I think more.
Hyperliquid, yeah, but I think Hyperliquid had the most liquidations out of any exchange.
Yeah.
And there's also like this big short event on Hyperliquid as well. So I think we've seen this a bunch of times. Many people have tried to exploit and bring down Hyperliquid. And I think that comes from a place of realizing that DEXs are the future and the momentum is shifting towards DEXs. And I don't think that's going to change. I think that's only going to sort of accelerate going forward because I don't think people will trust these centralized exchanges after what's happened.
Since you mentioned Hyperliquid, I want to ask like, do you think it was a coordinated attack by Binance and CZ to break it down? Because people are actually like, when you say this, people are going to assume that. I saw some tweets about that too.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. I'd like to think that's not the case, but
Hmm.
people are definitely taking advantage of the exchanges, whether it be the flaws in Binance, um, or or some of the flaws in like Hyperliquid. Like we've definitely seen people take advantage of these things in the past. I'm not sure if
Okay.
it was a coordinated attack on Hyperliquid, but there's definitely like the DPEG and stuff that happened on Binance. It doesn't look like that was an accident.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much. So last topic, maybe Bedri wants to go with that alpha. We want to hear more alphas about wallet exchange. Do you have any alpha
So,
for our listeners?
so I think the main two pieces of alpha, one would be the waitlist and getting on those waitlists so you have early access. Mainnet is coming out quite soon, and I think the other piece would be pay attention to the affiliate programs and the competitions as well. That's a really good way for people to get aligned with the protocol early, make a big difference, help grow the protocol, and help join the community as well, and make Bullet into one of the leading exchanges.
Thank you so much. Bedri, are you talking? You are muted right now.
Yeah, I said thank you because our followers loves to using some Perp DEX, and they are definitely try to bullet. And if they learn some alpha from this episode, they will love. That's why we're asking this, and that's all from my side. It's a kind of perfect episode, I think.
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, we love to host you. By the way, this is our second edition for Perp Texas. We couldn't have host you at the first edition.
Yeah.
Right now, we are like running out again, and we want to host you again when you launch your mainnet. To be honest.
Yeah,
Yes, I'd love to be back, and thank you guys for having me.
perfect. So, see you again.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. I'll see you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.